Did you know that it takes the average person 2 to 5 seconds to realize that there's danger, something's unfolding, and then they begin to react? 2 to 5 seconds. That time lapse may not seem like a lot, but it gives those who are attempting to do harm on others the perfect amount of time to take advantage of you or your loved one. That's what we're going to be talking about today, situational awareness. And that'll be coming up next, right here on Minuteman Preparedness. All right, guys, so welcome back to Minuteman Preparedness. So, of course, today's topic is situational awareness. So, as I stated in the intro, 2 to 5 seconds is the typical amount of time it takes for average citizens, average people, to realize that there is danger unfolding, something's happening, and then for them to react. That reactionary gap of 2 to 5 seconds can give those wishing harm upon you or others that little bit of time they need to take advantage of you, whether by grabbing you, brandishing a weapon, or anything like that. So first off, we're going to go into what is situational awareness. It's a term a lot of us have probably heard, a lot of you all, and I'm going to give you the actual definition of it, and then we're going to go ahead and explore this topic a little bit more. So, for today's purposes, we're going to be talking about tactical situational awareness. So, the meaning of this, tactical situational awareness, refers to the ability to perceive and understand the environment, recognize potential threats, and respond appropriately in real time, especially in high-stress situations, such as law enforcement or military operations. It involves understanding and observing environmental cues, comprehending their significance, and anticipating further developments to make informed decisions. So it's kind of a lot there to unpackage, but it's not that difficult. You know, I've been dealing with this for a very long time. It's a second nature type of deal to me. And I'll give you an example. When I was going through field training and my training officer would be sitting beside me as I'm driving the patrol vehicle, we would pull up at a stoplight, intersection, I've been going through my entire life, nothing different, really out of the ordinary. One of the first things my FTO would say to me is, where are you? Where are you at? Like, what are your road names? You need to always look at street signs. Even if you know those streets, look at the street signs. Give them a glance. That way, if something happens, it's fresh in your head. So you know exactly where you are. Okay, understand that. Yeah, I've been here 1,000 times, but I'll glance at the street signs. I still do that to this day. Even though I've been through certain places my entire life, I still glance at the street signs. Next thing they would say to me is, why are you in this particular lane? You can be in this lane or this lane, the inside or outside lane. You're going straight. Why are you in this particular lane? I don't know. As a young trainee, I didn't know. I'm just going this way. I'm in one of two lanes. Well, you're in the wrong lane because you're in the inside lane and there's also a turn lane. Now you have, if there's a vehicle to your left in the turn lane, there's a vehicle to your right that's going straight. You have just blocked yourself in. So if something occurs, somebody brandishes a weapon, comes out from one of the sides of the vehicles, you've not allowed yourself anywhere to escape from. You need to be in the outside lane so you have options. You need to be where you have options to be able to drive that vehicle around others, pop sidewalk or whatever. Hadn't ever thought about that. I think about that to this day. I still do that now, almost 20 years later. It's these things that most people don't think about. Whenever you pull up to that stop sign, stoplight, intersection, are you paying attention to the vehicles around you? Are you paying attention to the pedestrians? How do they look? what are they wearing? Are the clothes they're wearing very unseasonable for, that time? Are they holding signs? What do the signs say? What is their general reading of that area? Is there tension in the air? Or is it just an ordinary day? You've been through there 1,000 times. Everything looks completely as it always does. These are things we have to pay attention. That is being situationally aware, paying attention to those. And a lot of times when people think about situational awareness, they're thinking about, being in a parking lot in, a seedy parking lot of a gas station at midnight, and there's undesirables hanging around the area. The moon is shining down and it's a dimly lit parking lot. That's what pops in a lot of people's heads. That's what popped in the head of Grok or Gork or whatever on X when I typed in, female in a sketchy parking lot. That's exactly the image that it produced for me. And that was the image I showed just before the start of this video. We all have that kind of mindset. That's, situationally aware. Oh, it's nighttime. It's a seedy gas station parking lot. There's possibly undesirable people hanging around. It's a high crime area. Yeah, excuse me. Those are things that pop in our head, but we don't commonly think about when you're walking into the restaurant with your family on a Sunday after church, observing the parking lot, observing the people coming in and out. How are they acting? Are they walking? Are they running? Are they screaming? Or is it something less dramatic and they're kind of moving briskly with their heads down, clutching their young child? What do you hear? What do you smell? These are all things that are part of being situationally aware. So there are a lot of people commonly say there are 4 levels to situational awareness and then 5. But the bottom 4 are your most common, and the last is one that kind of goes here and there between different groups. So level 1 is white, condition white. That means you're unaware. So you're completely at ease, completely at peace. A lot of people would, say this is you're at home, your house is locked up, you're sitting on your couch with your loved ones, you're not paying attention to anything, you're completely at peace, your guard is 100% down. So then you move to condition yellow, which is you're situationally aware. This is pretty much what I'm at all the time, constantly. And it is pretty taxing on the mind a lot. But condition yellow, some people will get to this level, here and there if they pull into an area, again, sketchy parking lot, they kind of see some undesirables hanging around. It may be late at night. They're kind of watching over their shoulders and looking all around. But being in condition yellow means you're aware of your surroundings, you're paying attention, you're observant, you're using all of your senses, your eyes, your ears, your nose, and people may think that's funny, but you're kind of smelling what's going on around you, utilizing those senses. Then condition orange means that you recognize the threat or recognize threat. So you're pulled up at that stoplight, again, a normal day for you, and that guy that's always standing there with the sign panhandling, begging for money, has on a jacket today, which he typically doesn't have on. And as you're sitting there, you can tell he's getting agitated, beating on people's windows, which he usually doesn't do, begging for money. Well, you see his hand go under his jacket and brandish a hammer. Well, you have recognized this individual. You've seen that his behavior is not normal. It's erratic. It's becoming violent, beating on windows, and now he's brandished a weapon. You're kind of pinned in your vehicle there. You don't have anywhere to go. You've recognized that threat, and so you're really paying attention to what's going on. but he hasn't approached your vehicle. Now, condition red means ready to fight. That individual has walked away from those vehicles and has come to your vehicle. Well, it's not just you in the vehicle. You have your 4-year-old child in a car seat in the back. This individual starts beating on your window like he's been doing with the others. But now with that hammer, he's actually smashed that window of your vehicle right there near your child, and you're still blocked in. Vehicles front, back, left, and right. You have nowhere to go. There's cross traffic in front of you. Those vehicles don't have anywhere to go either, unless they want to get involved in a collision. You're now ready to fight because you have pulled out your defensive weapon, and you're probably going to utilize it to save your child and yourself from physical harm or threat of bodily harm and or death. You're at that point. Now, this is where a lot of people leave it off, but condition black. Condition black now means you are in the fight. You are hyper focused on that threat, that situation, and that individual has now tried to get in your vehicle, and you have had to utilize force against this individual. Condition black. A lot of people will never get to that point. A lot of people will never get to condition red. Some people may get to condition orange. If you're in the military and you've seen combat, you've been through all those conditions. If you're in law enforcement, you've more than likely been through all of those conditions many, many, many times. I have. And it's taxing on your mind. But it's just what you got to do. So, there's a lot there to think about and to kind of break apart. And one thing I forgot to add just popped in my head from that analogy when I was in field training, which I still do. My field training officer also brought up, hey, there's a guy that just came off that vehicle next to us, and he's got a firearm pointed at us. What are you going to do? The purpose of that was to get me thinking about what I would do. And the field training officer was like, whenever you pull up to an intersection or you have to stop or you're in, really bad high crime areas, you need to be constantly playing scenarios in your head. If I pull up at this stop sign and someone gets out of the vehicle with a firearm, or there's a guy over here on the corner and he pulls out a knife or firearm, or if there's a huge vehicle collision in front of us, or if somebody comes up from behind us with a weapon, they're like, you need to constantly be playing these short, small scenarios in your head, kind of gaming, what would you do? Well, it doesn't even have to be that. Part of being situationally aware is paying attention to not just possible criminal activity afoot or danger to you and your family. It could be as simple as you're inside the restaurant, you're eating, and you smell smoke, you start seeing smoke, there's a fire in the kitchen. Being situationally aware and paying attention to, hey, there's a fire in here. The front door is now blocked up with people trying to get out of here. Where's the fire exit? How are we going to get out of here? How am I going to safely get my, friends and family out of this building? Paying attention is the whole key thing behind situational awareness. It doesn't have to be you in the parking lot at midnight, in a seedy area of town. It's as simple as knowing where your fire exits are, knowing your exit points whenever you're at the movie theater, on top of paying attention to what's going on around you. If you're on a boat and the weather gets bad, putting on your PFD, paying attention to no weather radio, knowing where you are, knowing where closest land is. It's using your mind and paying attention to all the cues that are going on around you, whether it be seedy environment, time of day, type of people, clothing that they're wearing, your environment. You're in a boat out in the middle of the lake and a thunderstorm comes up, or you're in tornado prone areas and you get a tornado warning that states a tornado has been sighted on the ground, 2 miles away from where you reside. Paying attention to these things is extremely important in situational awareness. Now, of course, when you're dealing with situational awareness, one of the prime things is paying attention to your environment and the people in your environment. So, whenever you pull up at that store and you park in the parking lot, you park, under a lamppost, even if it's during the day, so you have a marker where your vehicle is, so you can quickly get back to your vehicle if something happens. But you parking there away from everybody else, and there's 100 other spots closer, and you walk back, and there's a van parked directly beside your vehicle, that should be a clue in your mind that there's 100 other parking spots all around here closer. I parked away on purpose, and now there's a van with blacked out windows parked beside my vehicle. I probably don't need to walk to my vehicle right now. I need to alert, the store or security, law enforcement, something like that, ask for escort to my vehicle or whatnot. Paying attention to the environment. When you're walking into your favorite Sunday after church restaurant and you're watching the people, as you're walking up, you're watching the people come in and out of the establishment. Are they happy, talking, giggling, laughing? Everything looks good to go. You don't hear anything. You don't see anything. You don't smell anything out of the normal. When you go in there, you need to glance the people that are in there, making sure everything kind of appears to be copacetic. You don't see somebody sitting in there with at 95 outside and they're wearing a trench coat and they're sitting in the corner watching everybody, not really eating, but eyeballing everybody. That's a sign that you need to pay attention to that person or maybe not visit that establishment today. When you go into the establishments, stores, shopping malls, things like that, you need to be paying attention to people's clothing. Is it unseasonable? Is it extremely baggy? One thing to look for with people carrying concealed weapons, a lot of time when people carry weapons, especially firearms, they will constantly touch it. Something in people's heads. They will constantly tap, touch, tug at, readjust, or move. A lot of times with firearms, you'll see a lot of movement towards the front center of the pants to the 3 o'clock or the 6 o'clock. People, that's the typical areas where people will carry a firearm. If you see a lot of movement like that and people wearing unseasonable clothing, person's probably got a firearm on them. And if they're sitting in the corner of that store, if they're sitting on the bench in the mall, just watching everybody and they're constantly doing that, that's a clue that something may be happening. You need to pay attention to it. So this video is already gone pretty long. The whole moral of this story is to utilize all of your senses. Know where you are. Pay attention to what you hear, what you see, and what you smell. Watch people. Look at their hand movements. Hands are important. That's why a lot of times you always hear law enforcement say hands, hands. They want to see the hands because they want to know that nothing is there. Unreasonable movements. People constantly touching themselves in the center of their waistband on their 3 or 6 o'clock positions, typically where weapons are located. Looking at the personal environment, is it a tense area? Is there a protest going on? Is there a high crime rate in that area? Simply paying attention can help keep you out of a bad situation. I'm going to put this website in the bio. They have a really great breakdown of situational awareness. It's the Tactical Hive. Don't worry, I'll have it in the bio like I said. They have a great breakdown of situational awareness and some actual kind of like mind training things you can do to help you pay a little bit more attention, utilizing your senses, your observation skills. It's all about being observant, just paying attention to what's going on around you. But with that, I hope you all stay safe. Have a great day. And Minuteman, is out.